welcome everybody to the glorious episode of the Put on Raiders podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, along with Ryan Holmes, and we are podcasting on the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. Listen, I mean, the Raiders are continuing their winning streak at 3 right here. They had to win 4 straight to make the playoffs, and Ryan, it looks like they could possibly be in that direction. And I keep posting that Kobe Bryant NBA Finals, GIF where it says "job not done." So everybody who wants to relax, I'm trying to be very even keeled here and not go really crazy right now. But it was a good victory. We celebrate the victories here, and we talk about the losses. But great win for the Raiders here on the road against a quality opponent that nobody can say they played against their backup quarterback or anything like that. They were at full strength and they still beat the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't play a complete game, but it was probably the best game they've played all year in all 3 phases. They had punt return, a kick return, 2 good punts, 2 field goals. The offense moved the ball at times. The defense, other than, the end of the half and the first drive of the third quarter, played really well. And, other than that 5-minute lapse they had, I'd say the last 2 minutes of the first half, the first 3 minutes, second half, this team put together 55 minutes of pretty good football, which is the most they've done all year. So the defense is definitely clicking now over the last 7 weeks. They're holding, I think 5 of the last 7 have been under 200 yards passing, and each of the last 3 has been under 150. So if this team can play the run at a somewhat respectable level and play this type of pass defense, they're not going to give up a ton of scores as long as the offense doesn't stop. They need to stop turning the ball over. Unfortunately, today for the Raiders defense, both times that Derek Carr threw interceptions, they were able to get off the field without giving up a point. Which was a key, that the defense stood up in those situations after turnovers. But, Derek Carr, first drive looked really good, kind of, fizzled there for the middle portion of the game. And then when the game was on the line in the fourth quarter, he made a couple throws, escaped some pressure when he needed to. Now we just need him to play like that for 4 quarters next week.
Yeah, I mean, and there's times where, and like I said, these drives are why he is a guy who some of us in Radio Nation he's our hero, and some of us in the nation we scratch our head at times because he just we want to see it more consistently because he's capable of it. And I'm not sure what clicks and what doesn't click sometimes, but when it clicks, it looks good. It looks really good. And I think that they started off, that was probably the drive of this season. That was the way they moved the football in that first drive. That was just like bing, boom, boom. It was done, and they got into the end zone running the football. They passed it. They got a lot of people involved. I know you had the great catch by Hunter Renfrow right behind you, and people are just going crazy about Hunter Renfrow. And I think what Hunter Renfrow is done for this team has been amazing. If Gruden has left one thing on this team, I will thank him always for drafting Hunter Renfrow. But in this game, also, we did have another receiver who had a tremendous ball game in Zay Jones. And I don't want it to go underneath because Hunter Renfrow is so popular a player, and he's probably everybody's favorite Raider here, Max Crosby, no question about it. But I just think that we've screamed on this podcast about in-breaking routes. Stop vilifying Zay Jones. Other podcasts vilify Zay Jones for what he can't do. How about what he can do? Just give him the plays that he can do and see what he does at that point. If he can complete those plays and make those plays and get some receptions in what he can do at a high level, then we can talk about it. If he can't do that, then get him off the field. But Ryan, I thought Zay Jones played pretty well today.
Yeah, he clearly has chemistry with Derek Carr. And then, it's kind of interesting. Brian Edwards went down with COVID last week and couldn't play. And you saw Zay Jones slide over and play the X position. And they started throwing the ball inside a lot to him last week. And he had a good game last week. Deshaun Jackson got a lot of reps at the Z last week, and this week they came out kind of in the same way. They started Zay Jones outside. He played X. When Brian Edwards came in, he'd moved to Z, but getting those two involved, and I've been screaming at it the whole season. Those guys are not deep threats, neither one of them. And trying to use them as deep threats for 12, 13, 14 weeks, however long it was brutal. Trying to watch those guys try to make plays down the field, and now you're starting to see when Darren Waller's not on the field, they need another guy to work the intermediate area, and they've done a really good job of incorporating Zay Jones into some of those routes. It'll be interesting to see what happens next week when hopefully, fingers crossed, Darren Waller returns to this offense. I don't know if he's going to play 100% of the snaps. I don't know where he's at physically coming off of COVID and the injuries. They definitely need him. But it's going to be curious to see how they incorporate those wide receivers. And, I like Deshaun Jackson on the field. He got open deep. Carr underthrew the ball. It got intercepted. And, there's a lot of talk. Well, Deshaun Jackson didn't fight for the ball. Deshaun Jackson's not going to win 50-50 balls down the field. That's not him. You have to overthrow him in those situations. You can't underthrow him. So, I just thought that was it was an underthrown ball for sure. Too, it was a really nice play by the DB. There's not much Jackson could have done there, but I kind of like that zone, that Jones, the Renfrow, Jackson. When you go to 11 personnel, and then I kind of took a quick look at the targets again this week. It was basically Renfrow Jones on every pass. You didn't see a lot to the running backs. I think Foster Moreau had one target. I think Jackson had one catch for 5 yards on 3 targets. I think Edwards had 2 or 3 targets. So they didn't really get a lot of other guys involved, but they did just enough to move the ball. And then, of course, at the end of the game, they went to Mr. Reliable, Hunter Renfrow. And the fact Renfrow's out there, he's beaten an all-pro. Kenny Moore is probably the best slot guy in the league. He beat him for a touchdown. He beat him several times. And then the other adjustment you saw Greg Olsen do with Zay Jones is you saw him working a lot of out-breaking routes too. Those 5 to 10 yard out routes that we've been asking for all season too.
The comebacks. He had a nice comeback too in that game too.
Third down, they had, they went, 3 by 1, they motioned into a bunch, and then they had Zay Jones run that whip route into the flat for a first down, which the Raiders used to do with Amari Cooper a lot. So you see them moving Jones around a lot more and getting him involved and just stop throwing the ball down the field to him, and it's working.
Yeah, and also, they were pretty sure-handed, both of those guys. So, Renfrow and Jones. So they do a good job of catching the ball with their hands and not their body. But listen, they played. It was a nice 1-2 punch. It was nice to see that. They did allow some pressures today. I guess on PFF's website they said the line had allowed 23 pressures today. And then the running backs didn't do much today as far as they got some running game going. I think this was a game where I feel like if Jacobs, who got banged up in this game, if he was able to stay in it, there'd have been more opportunities to run the football. Because he looked really good on that first drive. Peyton Barber didn't really get much, but they had to throw it a lot in this ball game, and they were able to get some plays at the beginning of the game and at the end of the game. But in the middle, that middle part was a tough one. The defense. Now I'll flip over to the defense right now. I really felt like, before I do that, the end of the half, that drive, and we talk about the middle 8 so much. The middle 8 is the last 4 of the first half and the first 4 of the second half. And usually if you win that, you win the game. The Raiders, listen, that was a tough sequence there. I think Leonard made a great play. I thought for sure that they had the first down. Turns out they didn't have the first down. The ball got fumbled backwards, so that's where the ball was spot. Good job by you making sure of that and looking that up for me. But even on that 3rd and 1, then you have Leatherwood jumping off sides, so that kind of screwed that thing up there as well. But even on that 3rd and 5, he kind of stood there like a statue in that moment there, and he had people open to get rid of the ball to, especially, right in his area of, little square in by Jalen Richard, where I think if you give it to Richard there, he probably catches and gets the first down.
Yeah. So, that drive, they used Marcus Mariota kind of how we've been asking them to use him all season, not just in the red zone, not just on 3rd and 4th and 1. Mm-hmm. They used him to throw a pass down the field. I thought that was pass interference. I thought it should have been a big play. I thought the DB has hands all over Hunter Renfrow. He used them on a couple run plays. He did fumble the ball. He got hit at the 10-yard line.
Yeah.
The line to gain was the 9. It was fumbled forward to the 8.5 where it went out of bounds. So it goes back to the spot under 2 minutes. That was the correct call by the refs. And then you didn't really see a lot of him in the second half, but they kind of got conservative and it was like run, pass, 3 and out, run, pass, like a couple of times in a row. That were kind of upsetting. And then defense, I don't know what Gus Bradley was doing. Like they went about as prevent soft defense as you could at the end of the half. They just let the Colts go right down the field and score a touchdown to make it 13-10. The pass rush again today was kind of hit and miss. You saw a lot of, guys open underneath, which is what this defense is designed to do. They're not giving up big plays down the field. So, that's good. But at some point, this pass rush is going to have to come alive next week against the Chargers. But, Yannick Ngakoue made a big big sack
Mhm.
to take a field goal off the board. Offensively, I think when they were in scoring range there twice, you mentioned it. Derek in this game, at least from the broadcast, it looked like he was just locked on to Hunter Renfrow a couple times on third down and just waiting. It takes time for Renfrow to run all those jukes and try to get open. And sometimes Carr stays with him too long and ends up facing pressure that he shouldn't. And he
Mhm.
took 2 sacks on third downs that you just can't take that
Yeah.
push the field goal back even further. So kudos to Daniel Carlson for stepping up and making those kicks. But those kind of mistakes are going to cost you sooner or later. You can't take sacks in field goal range on third down.
No, I thought that was huge. I love the. I mean, some of the action they had going on with Mariota was some really cool stuff that Olsen came up with. I feel like when they're gonna do the the read option stuff with him and Jacobs, Jacobs gonna get his carries. If I'm Marcus, just take the ball. I mean, I know he's reading the end, but on those plays, but I feel like he can get by. I feel like he can get by. If that end is even with him, because I just want to see him because he's so dynamic with the ball in his hand, and I just saw. I mean, that was some cool emotion from Marcus after getting that first down. You don't really see that too. You don't see that too often. So that was fun to see as well in this ball game. So the Raiders. You mentioned my next point about that. They're stopping him the whole half. Just to see them do that was just like the little nothing burger at the end of the first half was just tough to watch, to see them go boom 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 down the field when they haven't been able to do anything all game. But they gave up the big miracle play for a touchdown. But besides that, the defense played a really good ball game. And I'm getting used to seeing this number 5 out here. I mean, he's running all over the place, and I love to see what Nate Hobbs did in this ball game as well. He's such a short tackler. I think on that sack, I mean, I know he's going after the ball. He's getting greedy with going after the ball. But it'd be nice if he got Carson Wentz down. But I can't fault him for going for the turnover in that situation. Thoughts about the defense here? Again in this ball game, because I think they came up big, especially after those car turnovers.
Yeah, and we talked about it. They held another opponent to 20 points or less. They held them to under 150 yards passing. They did about as good as you can do against Jonathan Taylor. I think he had 108 yards on 20, 21, 22 carries, somewhere in there. Devon Diablo, again, led the team in tackles. I think, the unsung heroes in this game, again, Darius Philon in the middle had a pretty good game. And then Roderick Teamer, I thought, played really well. You didn't really see him stand out in coverage, but he was second on the team in tackles. Denzel Perryman, telling us after the game he could barely breathe, that COVID basically kicked his butt last week, and he was struggling. You saw KJ Wright on the field in the fourth quarter a lot. Perryman wasn't out there, but he was just dragging his body out there and doing whatever he could to help this team. So I thought the defense played well. Faison again made a couple of nice tackles. You'd like to see Trayvon Merrick not take out his own guy Hayward on that ball down the field. He's going for the ball. You got to give him credit for that. You saw Casey Hayward just get wiped out on that play, and he's kind of looking at Merrick like, I had this ball, I had this interception, he took me out. But a couple of missed tackles by Merrick. But again, overall, I thought the defense played well. You saw a blitz out of Merrick that we haven't seen. He came right a touch up the middle on a third down that led to, I believe, that it was a field goal on that possession. So they didn't give up a touchdown. But I think the defense stood up when they had to. Late in the game, they needed to hold them to a field goal to keep that game with it close, to keep it to 20-7 or 20-20 and not lose the lead. They did. I thought interior, again, Philon, I thought played well. Just quick off the top of my head, I thought Jefferson did okay. I mean, he's going up against Quentin Nelson, an all-pro.
That's hard.
But I really liked what I saw out of Diablo flying around the field. And again, Roderick Teamer, I thought had a good game.
Yeah, and I think that's the part of it where, that's why I'm not sure about how much you're gonna get out of Waller next week. But we'll see what happens as far as that goes. But yeah, it does not the breathing part of it. The respiratory part of COVID is tough. So good to see that Perry was able to get through the game, and hopefully he's okay for next week. Any special teams wise, and we talked about kicking short after every score. That seems to be going on. Also, at the end of the half, we talked about, hey, the Raiders are doing this thing where they, Bradley's doing this thing where he's giving so much space to these receivers at the end of the half. But I mean, Carlson, we love you, but you can't be kicking the ball out of bounds on that one. Because on that was a tough play. You give them really good field position, and they haven't really done anything all day. And you talked about special teams. I thought that, I mean, the return by Renfrow was, and have a return with no holding is incredible as well. But good job by Renfrow on that return.
Yeah, and Tyron Johnson had a big kick return, 35, 40 yards that got him good field position. And Daniel Carlson, again, stepped up, made 3 big kicks when he needed to, won the game. The kickoff out of bounds, especially under 2 minutes in the first half, is inexcusable. But I thought overall, the coverage units did all right. The Colts have a very good special teams unit, and I think the Raiders' special teams outplayed them in this game, which gave them the field advantage, field position advantage on a couple of drives. And then overall, the offense just needs to clean up the turnovers. I saw a tweet that the Raiders have been -2 or worse in the turnover battle each of the last 3 weeks. The last team to win 3 games in a row doing that was 1964. So it's not a sustainable method. And a lot of what the Raiders have done this year isn't sustainable. If you just look at the numbers and the metrics, they're finding ways to win, which is the motto, just win, baby. And I'll take all these wins. But, is this sustainable long-term the way they're playing? No. But the good thing is they only have to play one more game and win, and then they're in. And they're probably headed to Cincinnati, would be my guess. If Cincinnati win and the Raiders win next week, they're heading to Cincinnati for a playoff game.
Yeah, and then that would be something that would be cool to see. I love how they're the 8th team right now currently, right?
Yeah, and then the only thing they can do is get the 6th seed. So they can't get the 7th seed. It's 6th or nothing, which means they're going to play the 3 seed. Which at this point, if Kansas City wins next week, they're 2. They're playing the Broncos, and so
they already won. They already won.
So it's going to be Buffalo or Cincinnati, most likely.
Yeah.
2 cold weather outdoor stadiums in the middle of January.
Yes.
Better get the run game going.
Hey, listen, do what you gotta do. James from the 70718 wants to know why we don't do game balls. So I say, you know what? Hey, you want some game balls? We'll get some game balls. Give me offensive and defense. We'll do offensive and defensive game balls. Who are you giving the game ball to today on offense?
I'm going to give it to Zay Jones. The guy stepped up and had 8 catches for 120 yards. No one saw that coming. No. I don't even know if Zay Jones saw that coming. Yeah. But he was open. Derek trusted him. I'd say Derek gets a sliver of that game ball too. We'll give it half to Zay Jones, half to Derek, because Derek, as much as we criticize him on the show, in the fourth quarter when he needed a drive to win the game, he did it. So we have to give him credit for that.
Yeah, no question about it. I'm gonna give my game ball to the GOAT, I guess. Everybody call him a GOAT. I think it's just funny. I think everybody's throwing him on the GOAT to Hunter Renfrow now. But listen, Hunter is. I mean, he could have had even more because the only ball that he dropped is because Xavier Rhodes was, hugging him like your grandma does on Christmas Day. Like, I mean, it was ridiculous. I didn't even call a pass interference on that one. But so he gets one. I think defensively. You know what? Just because he went through something physically that was probably taxing for him, Denzel Perryman. If he talks about, he's been very candid about all things all year. And I think that for him to go through that whole COVID thing and talk about how he could barely even breathe and stuff like that today, I think that was good for him to get through that as well. But going next week, the Chargers are favored in this game. So that's interesting there as far as that goes. Teams have the same record and everything like that. So quick thoughts about the Charger game here. I think the one thing that I see in this game would be understand the opponent and understand and tell your defense that everywhere on the field is 4-down territory. Like this team plays Madden. They're not literally playing real football as far as it goes. So if you can, maybe if they're at the 36-yard line, their own 36 or their own 38-yard line, and they go for it and they don't get it, you could be giving your offense a short field and maybe kind of end this game. Try to get end this game early and get some turnovers. Get some turnovers here, turnover on downs in this game because they are going to, without question, go for on every single opportunity on 4th down. That's something big, and don't make them into a great running team because they're not a great running team. So, I mean, those are 2 things that kind of stood out for me when I look at the Chargers and the Raiders. Is Sunday Night Football guaranteed now?
From what I've seen, it's going to be on Sunday night. It hasn't officially been announced. The tickets for the game have changed to $525. It says on Ticketmaster. So yeah. I'm assuming that they're going to move the game. For me, the first thing that steps out is keep Justin Herbert in the pocket. Like, don't let him scramble for first downs.
Yeah.
I know that Eckler ran all over him in that first game. Both you and I were at that game.
Mhm.
I don't think the Chargers are going to run the ball much in this game. The Raiders have been much better, but they need to be able to stop the pass. And this is a game where, they schemed up. The Chargers schemed up the Raiders defense pretty good last time they played, with a lot of cover three beaters using Jared Cook. They're going to have to be ready for that. The Chargers in that first game, I want to say, were either 2 of 2 or 3 of 3 on fourth down. So getting off the field on third down isn't the concern. I think you hit it. They have to get off the field on fourth down. They have to
Yes.
stop scoring drives.
Yes.
And then offensively, the Raiders are going to have to continue to run the football, because the Chargers are going to give them light boxes similar to what the Broncos did. And they have a talented secondary. The Raiders can't get into a position where they're throwing the ball all over the field against Chris Harris, Adderley, and James at safety. They're going to have to take advantage of those linebackers and run the ball. They can't let Joey Bosa control this game off the edge against Brandon Parker. So hopefully, Darren Waller can come back and help there. And I really like what I've seen out of Nick Bowers, the young tight end, as a blocker. Maybe they use him as an extra, 6 guy to help the right side of that line in this game, keep an extra guy in. And then, the X factor, I just have this sneaky feeling that Jalen Richard is going to score next week. I just think that he's going to come up big and make a play. He made a big play today to break a couple of tackles on third down and get that first down. And I just think he's waiting. I just feel a Jalen Richard touchdown. I have no idea why.
Yeah, I think also the red zone defense is going to be huge in this game, and that's where we talked about. Jared Cook, he's going to be a big part of that as well too. So it's going to be these. I mean, listen, these fan bases are not friends. These organizations aren't friends. Like, so it's going to be, they have a lot of stuff to say about the Raiders, and the Raiders have a lot of stuff to say about the Chargers as well. So that should be really fun to kind of see what happens as far as that goes. This game, and you quickly posted the last time this happened, right? The last time this happened again, whether the Hugh Jackson game,
2011.
2011. I mean, that's something that's going to be tough to. That was a game tough to swallow. This will be a tough loss to swallow at this point too, as well. So the Raiders have to go out there and just take it. This is not. If Carr wants to be just get the monkey off his back as far as a playoff performer goes, just go out there and it doesn't even matter about what happens in Cincinnati. As right now, we're not thinking about what happens in Kansas City or whoever they're going to play next week. It's about coming in this game and just winning this game and just taking over this team, like for real, make them a real playoff team, a participant, and not talk about injuries that happened in 2016.
Yeah, I think if you ask anyone in that locker room and then any of the fans, and week, when after what happened with Ruggs and Gruden and they were 5-2, once they got to they started that losing streak where they lost, I think 5 out of 6 in the season. If you would have said you're in a position, you're at home, winning, you're in week 18, every one of us would have signed up for that. Said, okay, give it to me. Like after they lost to the Giants, after they lose to the Washington football team. And we talked about this. I actually brought up this scenario, I believe after the Washington football game, or maybe it was right before that. I said they can lose to Washington and Kansas City. They can still get in if they win the next 4 because they're all AFC games and they're all going to be tiebreakers. So give the team credit for getting to this point. And, I had someone reach out to me and say, is Rich Bisaccia 1 win away from securing the head coaching job? I still say no. Even if they get in, I think he needs to win a playoff game. I think it would be, and this is just my personal opinion, I think it would be short-sighted to just give him this job if they make the playoffs. Because again, this team, when you really step back and look at it, hasn't played great football. They played just well enough to win, but like I said, that's not sustainable year in and year out. But give them credit. We all, like I said, would have taken this opportunity. And I think this team, after everything they went to, we won't give predictions today. This is a quick reaction show, but I think we're looking at a playoff-bound 2021 Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens. Hopefully it does happen. And what's funny, I was thinking about a crazy scenario, and I was thinking about a scenario where if they make the playoffs, whether win a game or lose a game, but they just make the playoffs, right? And what I would do to kind of reward everybody to make it a really feel good room, I would say, Rich, I appreciate you. I'm making you the highest paid special teams coach in football. And I'm going to say, may I go call Doug and run the offense? And for next year, I'm just going to bring the family back for 1 year of just like, okay, I'm acknowledging what you did. We haven't done it in a long time. So we're going to go to playoffs. You're not going to be the head coach, but I'm going to make you, I'm going to make you the highest paid special teams coach in the league. And I'm going to make Doug Peterson the head coach. Just support him the same way you supported John. And I don't think it's going to work out that way. But I do think that if you're smart about it and you just think about the long-term effects, I think he would have to basically, for me, if I was running the Raiders, I'm talking about AFC Championship game. Like, I mean, that would have to be, he had to win a couple of games in the playoffs for me to say, okay, you know what? They lost a tough game at Tennessee on a field goal, and the Titans went to the Super Bowl. Okay, I got to bring this dude back.
Yeah, for me, it's tough because I just think even if he does come back, well, let's just say that Mark Davis does retain Rich Bisaccia. If they make the playoffs, this offensive staff needs to get blown up. They need a new offensive line coach. They need a new offensive coordinator, play caller, designer. The offensive staff can't return, in my opinion, no matter what happens, unless, like you said, there's a deep playoff run and they just figure it out here over the next couple of weeks, because this team hasn't been good for several weeks. But
offensively,
that's all in the past. It's all in the past now. It's win and you're in. Everyone should just focus on the next game.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's as easy to say they're in, everyone's coming back. I don't see that. I think if they get in, I think Derek Carr does come back. I think that Mark Davis would keep him. Yeah. Obviously, the new head coach is probably going to want to keep him. And we'll talk about all this stuff,
we got a long time to talk
after
about
the season. But
right now,
I just want to celebrate this win against the Colts. We were both wrong, and we both said on the show last week, we hope we are wrong. We hope that the Raiders do find a way to win it. And I'm sitting here on my couch rooting for the game, and I wanted them to win that game. And there are Raider fans out there on Twitter that wanted them to lose this game. I'll never understand that mentality.
Yeah.
But again, you have to be realistic when you look at where is this team headed? What's the overall landscape of the AFC? The goal is not to get into the playoffs and lose. The goal is to win a Super Bowl. Cherish the season while we're in the journey. But at the end of the day, you have to take a big picture view of everything.
Yeah, we can't make decisions off of emotion for this team. That's the biggest mistake people make, is making a decision off of emotion. So we will hit you up later in the week. As far as when we get the Well 22 and look at some stuff, and make sure you stay tuned for the breakdowns there on Twitter. They're always fun. We're back on Instagram. We're back on Instagram. So that's good. Got him. That's good.
I got the account back. So yes. The person in Nigeria, you tried, didn't work.
It didn't work. We got you. So that's crazy. So we're back on Instagram, back on Twitter, and Ryan and I will see you next week. Take care, guys.
All right. Take care.